Hi everybody, it is Tuesday and it looks like some of us had problems with the essential question from both today and Monday when dividing fractions with whole numbers, and you had issues with how to explain what that means. So I'm going to go through two example essential questions. It's kind of like your essential question, but the problem is different. Okay, so we're going to go over that because a lot of people had issues with it. So this example essential question is the same question for the first part. What does it mean when you divide a fraction by a whole number? The second part is different. Solve 3/5 divided by 4 by using a model or diagram to help you explain. So a lot of you at home, what you did was you said that to solve this, you take the first number and you multiply by the reciprocal of the second number and multiply across, so you get 3/20 for this problem. That's what a lot of you wrote down for your answer, and you explained that process. But that doesn't tell us what it means when you divide a fraction by a whole number. It doesn't tell us, what does 3/5 divided by 4 mean? So anyways, you guys ended up with the correct answer. Let's walk through the model or diagram. So on Khan Academy, you should have seen that it's 3/5 divided by 4 means that you draw 3/5 as your first step. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fifths, and they want 3/5. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to highlight 3 out of those 5/5. I'm going to use a highlighter to do that. So here's 1/5, 2/5, and 3/5. Okay, so far 3/5 divided by 4, I first have to set up my first number, 3/5. And here's the tricky part where a lot of you missed. What does this divide by 4 mean? It means we're taking our 3/5 that we're starting off with, and we are dividing the 3/5 into 4 pieces. So that's the part that a lot of you missed. What does it mean when you divide a fraction by a whole number? It means you're taking that fraction and you're dividing it into that many pieces. Okay? So now we're going to divide it into that many pieces. Divide it into 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 pieces. So another way you can think about it is that you can think about dividing the 3/5 portion that you started off with into 4 portions for 4 people. Like we have 3/5 here, 1, 2, 3 fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5/5. We highlighted 3/5. We're dividing what we have into 4 portions for 4 people. So it's like 4 people are sharing the 3/5. So now the answer is, how much does each person get? If we split it up into 4 portions for 4 people, how much does each of those people get? Well, this is person 1, this is person 2, this is person 3, this is person 4. So each person will get just one of these rows. So each person gets 3, but these 3 pieces are super small, right? So it's not 3/5, that's what we started off with, right? 3/5 is these large columns. This is 3. What are the other, how many of these other sizes are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 rows of that 5. So there's 5, 10, 15, 20. So each person gets 3/20ths. So that's what that question is asking you. When you divide a fraction by a whole number, you're taking a fraction, you're dividing it amongst that many people. So this is divided by 4, so that's 4 people. The answer is telling you how much does each person get. Each person is each of these rows, so each person gets 3 out of the total number of small pieces, 20. So then if you want to check to make sure, each person gets 3/20ths. There's 4 people. So if I were to add all these up, 3, 6, 9, 12, I get 12/20ths. Everybody's portion together is 12/20ths. If I divide that 12/20ths and reduce it, let's say by 4, that's their common factor. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So it gets us right back to the 3/5, because each person only gets 1/4. That's why we flip the second number and multiply. Because when you're dividing them into 4 pieces, you're really trying to figure out what's 1/4 of this, because each person only gets 1 out of those 4 pieces. That's why we flip that second number, because we're trying to figure out what is 1/4 of 3/5. It's the same thing as dividing it by 4. So that's where that shortcut comes from. But the question didn't ask you about the shortcut. The question is asking you, what does it mean? What are you actually doing when you divide a fraction by a whole number? You're taking that fraction and you're dividing it into that many pieces. So to figure out how much each person gets, you're really trying to figure out 1/4 of the 3/5. Okay? So hopefully that was a little more clear. If you need to rewatch that, feel free to pause it and rewind it. I'm going to go on to today's essential question, an example of it. So today's essential question asks, what does it mean, again, when you divide a whole number by a fraction now? So now you have something a little bit different, a whole number by a fraction. So you got a question that looks kind of like that, except it looks a little different. This example essential question I give you is, it gives you 3 divided by 2/7. It wants you to use a picture or model to help you explain. So normally what you do is you do your shortcut, right? You take 3 divided by 2/7 and you say, hey, I'm actually going to flip that second number. Now we know why we flip that second number, right? Because it's really the same math that you're doing. Okay, so we flip that second number. We can put a 1 on the bottom of this 3, and then we multiply across. 3 times 7 is 21. 1 times 2 is 2. I can change that into a mixed number. So 2 goes into 21 one time for the tenths, and then let me just show you my work on the side. 2 goes into 2 one time. Bring down that 1. 2 goes into 1. Oh, sorry. 2 goes into 1 0 times. So then you subtract that 0, you have a remainder of 1. So I can take that 1 and put it into a half. So this is 10 and a half. Okay? That's using the shortcut. But the question is not asking you to use a shortcut. They're saying, what does it mean when you divide a whole number by a fraction? So we're going to go ahead and figure out the picture or model. They're telling me 3 divided by 2/7. So 3 divided by 2/7 is what steps? First, we draw that first number. Draw 3. Okay, move this down a little so I have room. Draw 3. When I draw 3, I'm drawing 3 wholes. I know I'm going to divide it into 2/7, so I'm going to draw it out so that I have 7s. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's 1. Here's 2. And here's 3. Okay, 3 is being divided into 2/7. So this is a little different from the first one. The first one was dividing it, a fraction, into 4 pieces. So we divided it this way, right? But now we have 3 wholes. We need to divide it into 2/7. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, well, first of all, I could highlight all of this, right? Because 3 wholes means all of it. Just like the one previously, we're highlighting what the quantity is. Okay, so for this one, everything is highlighted because it's a whole number. All right, so our next step is to divide it into 2/7. So all I got to do is count out 2/7. Well, here's 1, 2/7, 3/7, 4/7, 5/7, 6/7, and 7/7. So I have 7/7 in each of these to make up each whole. I need to divide them into 2/7. There's different ways that you can do that. You can take a different color and you can circle groups of 2/7, or you can make a bracket, whichever way. So let me go ahead and circle them. Here's 1 2/7. Here's another group of 2/7. And here's another group of 2/7. Okay? Each of these is a group of 2/7. Let me go ahead and circle these 2 together. That's also a group of 2/7. Let me make this clearer. There we go. Here's another group of 2/7. And another. We have a lot of 2/7. Are you seeing why we came up with 10, right? You're going to have something like 10 at the end. Here's another, and another, and another. So far that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 whole groups of 2/7. And then we have 1 piece left over. We need 2 pieces to make a group of 2/7, but we don't have it. We have half of what we need. Okay, so that's why our answer is 10 total groups and only half of what we actually needed to make another whole. Okay, so the second step after drawing 3 was to divide the 3 into groups of 2/7. Okay, and then what was it? The leftover becomes a fraction. Okay, we had a total of 10 groups of 2/7 that worked out perfectly, and we had 1 left over at the end. All right, so that's what you need to explain in your essential question. What does it mean when you divide a whole number by a fraction? It's asking you to draw the whole number and divide that whole number into different groups of that fraction. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do another one with you because that one can get kind of difficult. Let me give you another problem. Remember, it's a whole number, so let me give you the whole number of 5 divided by, let's see, 3 How about that? 5 divided by 3/5. So I'm first going to draw my 5. You always want to draw what your first number is. It's going to be divided into 3/5 later, so I want to make sure there's 5 in each of these. Here's 2. There's 3. There's 4. And here's my 5. Okay. They're all shaded in because it's 5 holes, right? It's all of this. Shading it in basically says this is my value, all of it. Now we're dividing it into groups of 3/5. So here's 1, 2, 3 out of 5. So here's one group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/5. I have another group of 3/5 because this is what we're dividing it into, groups of 3/5. Here's another group of 3/5. 1, 2, 3, 3/5. 1, 2, 3, 3/5. 3/5. Okay, and then here's 1, 2, so you can kind of go like this to show that's one group. And then here's 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, you're going to have 1 left over, right? So let's see how many holes we have so far. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7, 8. So my answer at the end is 8 with a fraction because I have 1 left over. I need 3/5. So I have 2 more that I need to get to that 3/5, if that makes sense. Each of these needed 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Here I only have 1. I need another 2 and 3. So my fraction at the end, my answer at the end is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1, because I have 1 left over, out of the 3 that I need. So that part's kind of tricky. That's why I want to do this extra problem. Okay? A lot of people think that it's the 5 at the end, but it's not because you have another 2 that you need to get to that 3. If I were to do the shortcut, it would become 5 over 1 times, we got to flip this over, 5 over 3. So that's another way you can see that it's the 3 as the denominator because you got to flip this at the end, right? So this becomes 25/3. 25 divided by 3. 3 goes into 25 8 times with 1 remainder, you see that, out of the 3 that you need. Okay? So again, dividing a whole number by a fraction, you're taking that whole number, you're drawing it out, and you're trying to figure out how many of that fraction can fit inside that whole number. Okay? So some of you need to resubmit the essential question. Hopefully that was a little bit more helpful. Tomorrow we don't have school, so if you are still having trouble with it, let me know, and we can work on more of it on Friday. But let me know so that I can prepare